in September the 20-something, 1946, I went to Washington, took a civil service exam, passed it, but it takes about a year because you have to be cleared. You're just like the secret. I had a clearance for top secret. So I worked because the office I was going was a 4-star, and what he did was very important. So I used to type letters and have to stamp all these letters, one secret, one confidential, one declassified. And in those days, we had no computer. It had to be carbons, and you had to put thin tissues, 6 carbons plus the original. So when you type, you would have hit it so you make sure it went through all the carbon. But anyways, I worked, since I was waiting for the clearance to come through, I had to have a job to sustain me because I was living on a government reservation only for government girls. So I lived there for $24 a room. And so I went to the FBI and they hired me. But the FBI is under the Treasury and a little looser. So I stayed there not quite a year because I didn't like the way you were treated there. You had to raise your hand to go to the bathroom. You raised your hand, Miss Copeland? Yes, may I go to the bathroom, please? And you couldn't take your cover off your typewriter until it was 9 o'clock exactly. I had enough of that. So at the time, J. Edgar Hoover was in charge. You've heard of J. Edgar Hoover? Well, he was the top boss. So my boss told me I had to type a letter to resign or leave the FBI. So I brought a little note to be discharged. I said I refuse to be treated as a criminal. So handed her my badge, left it on her desk, walked out of the building. Now I didn't have a job. So what do? I scouted in Washington. There's so many jobs, so many government jobs, because that's all it is. So on a quirk, I applied for the Army. So I went and got a clerical job with the Army. Army Ordnance. They're a supply unit at the Pentagon. And while I was working for the Army, the Air Force became born. So in September, the following year, there was a separate unit called United States Air Force. Well, they had to go out and proselyte people because they had to recruit people to work for the Air Force. So they'd actually go out in the street and ask them if they wanted to work for this new company called the Air Force. So I went and got a job there. So I stayed there, and I was promoted. I got a good job, and it was all secretarial and administrative. I even went to school. They sent me to school. At the time, it was called Air University, just to become informed. And after I went through all that schooling, my father died, and my sister said, I need help at home. I need help. Pop's very sick. He had multiple sclerosis. So I asked my boss if I can be transferred home, and he did. So I went to work at the Air Force in Massachusetts, the Air Reserve. There was a 514 Air Squadron right behind the airport, at the airport. And from there, I went to work for Social Security. I got closer to home. Now I'm in New Britain, so I lived in Kensington at the time. So I did that, got closer. Things got better at home, but I never went back to Washington. After 9 years, I really loved working there. You talk about high-ranking people, but nobody was impressed at the Pentagon because there's so many generals, so many dignitaries. It's just a way of walking around the corridors because there was just so many. So you didn't get influence or look and say, oh, look at that. There were a lot of celebrities that came to the Pentagon. But getting back to me, so I finally ended up the last 12 years of my government service was with the Internal Revenue. And that was the one I hated the most. It was horrible. I had a boss who followed me every inch of the way. If I'm on the phone, he'd grab it from me and tell me that, yes, can I help you? I said, I'm talking to the client. So, anyways, I resigned. I couldn't take it because my boss said I would die there, because even he called me at the hospital when I had an attack from my blood pressure because of him. He'd follow me to the bathroom. You know? And then, well, he left too. After I left, he leaves. And he went to work for the state. And everybody in our office said, we all pity the state to get him, because he'll be running the place in 2 minutes and changing everything. So anyways, that's my government life. And after that, I decided to do a little pin money for myself, and I worked for Travelers 4.5 years after I retired, and I loved it. It was a wonderful company, and it's a shame that the management, top management, didn't see it the way the employees did, and he kind of mishandled this whole situation to the demise of the old Travelers. That's it. That's my Eleanor saying.